Discovering my ex-husband's affair with my sister led to our divorce. Now, 3 years later, they plead for my help with their son, and now my parents are cutting ties with me over it. I, a 36-year-old female, have been divorced for 3 years. My ex-husband Caleb, a 36-year-old male, had an affair with my sister Alyssa, a 32-year-old female, while we were married, which ended our relationship. We started dating at a party when we were 25 years old, meeting Caleb via friends. He proposed to me after 3 years of dating, and we later tied the knot. I eventually discovered that he had been unfaithful to me with my sister after we had been married for around 5 years. I brought Caleb home for dinner, and that's when Alyssa and him first got to know each other. Probably after 6 or 7 months of dating, we chose to introduce each other to our families because we had already decided we were serious about one another. We'd previously had a meeting since he didn't have any siblings. It was only his parents. In contrast, my family was fairly large. I'm the middle child. Our older sibling is Eric, a 40-year-old male, and he's pretty much the only person I'm speaking to from my family now. The first time I brought Caleb home for dinner, he got along well with everybody, but most of all with Alyssa. They grew close to each other when they discovered how many interests they had, including the same TV series, authors, and even types of food. It seemed cute to me. I had no idea how things would work out in the end. They grew close friends, and I was pleased with how well Caleb was getting along with my family. I also had a strong friendship with Alyssa at that point in time, considering we were closer in age compared to Eric. Alyssa and I would sometimes even go out on double dates with our respective partners, and we had a lot of good moments together. She had a couple of short-lived relationships while Caleb and I were together, so she would bring a different guy on every date and would even joke about how she hoped Caleb had a sibling so she could simply date him instead. Every now and then, she would say something about how lucky I was or how great Caleb was, but I always took it as a compliment, never reading too much into it because I really assumed that she was just thanking Caleb. I did not see anything improper with it. That's how much I trusted and loved her. So I never considered the possibility that she might be hinting at something, but it never even crossed my mind that perhaps she had feelings for him. Nobody was happier than Alyssa when Caleb proposed to me, and we tied the knot. She even served as my maid of honor. In fact, you can understand my level of hurt following our 5 years of dating when the two of them had been sharing a bed behind my back. I found out before you all inquire that there was nothing about the two of them that would have led me to be suspicious. More than anything else, I trusted Alyssa and I trusted Caleb. I had no doubts in my mind that they wouldn't try to harm me. That being said, Caleb and I had an extremely easy relationship for 5 years. There were occasionally a few little glitches, such as I wasn't ready for children and he wanted them. He wanted me to work less, but since I made more money than he did and lived a better lifestyle, I was unable to comply. We were financially dependent on my income. He wanted me to be a little more carefree because he felt that I was very focused on my profession. Furthermore, despite my best efforts, I was unable to convince him that we were in dire need of the funds. We were both working to support a steady lifestyle. I work as an investment banker, which is a very demanding profession. He is competent at his profession and works in marketing, but he is not as committed to it as I am. I'm not whiny about it. I truly enjoy what I do, and it allows me to achieve my goals. Why then shouldn't I exert myself to get it? The reason I didn't want children is simple to understand. I would prefer not to do anything at all than to do things poorly because I was not emotionally or mentally prepared to be a mother. In my opinion, no one should be forced or bullied into becoming a parent if they are not ready to be one. I had made it very clear from the start of our relationship that I did not want to regret having children later in life. However, he believed that as time progressed in the marriage, I would have second thoughts. I'm not sure why he assumed that since I've always stated that I don't want children, I would alter my opinion. In any case, these constituted the main points of disagreement for the majority of our arguments. Either of these two topics would typically be the focus of the larger ones. We would argue just like any other couple would. However, we were always able to resolve these issues. Even after our heated arguments, we would eventually get along. I knew at least we were in for the long haul. I don't believe that we had the same understanding of it. We would argue, but we would always work things out. He never showed me any signs of disloyalty, so I never had any cause to doubt his love for me. He never stopped telling me that he loved me, even a week before I found out that he had been having an affair. But a week after we celebrated our wedding's 5th anniversary, I learned that he had been seeing Alyssa on our anniversary day as well. While we were guests at the party, he was acting all cutesy and sweet toward me as if I was the only person in the world. But after I discovered he had been unfaithful to me, that drastically changed. Several days following our anniversary celebration, I searched through my clothes for something but couldn't locate it, so I went to check Caleb's clothes. I don't know precisely what I was looking for, but I do recall that a few days later I had a business function and was looking for a very specific jacket. I decided to check in Caleb's wardrobe, thinking that perhaps I had accidentally mixed it in with his things. I unintentionally grabbed the bag he had pushed all the way to the back of his wardrobe. While I was looking, I pulled it out of curiosity and began leafing through it. I was shocked to see that it was filled to the brim with women's clothing. After going through a few items, I recognized the garments and knew then that they were all Alyssa's. I was very confused and unable to make sense of what was happening. I was at a loss for words since I couldn't think of a single plausible explanation for this. Because I trusted him and he had never done anything like this to me before, I made the decision to snoop through his phone, something I had never done before. Although we had never given each other a reason to, I felt compelled to do it at that precise moment. Even if I questioned him about the clothing, he would have had time to prepare a defense, conceal evidence, and so on. I chose to just go for it. Knowing his phone's password allowed me to check his direct messages. Sure enough, when I started looking through his chat with Alyssa, everything seemed normal at first. But as I scrolled up, I realized that's not how friends communicate with one another. All the late hours he was working might be explained by the flirting, intimate texting, and planning they were doing. It seemed to me that this relationship had been going on for a few months. Alyssa had dropped by for lunch that day, so they were both really fortunate that I happened to have them in the house at the same time. I confronted them all at once. Rather than apologizing or even bothering to deny it, the two of them simply stated that this was none of my business and that I had to stay out of their affairs. When I showed them the texts and the bag of clothes I had discovered in his wardrobe and demanded an explanation, that response truly surprised me. Of course, this was my business. I believe it is my business if my spouse was having an affair with my sister. That day, I lost all self-control and began yelling at them both, but they just kept acting as though this was no big deal, not responding to any of it. Caleb went so far as to accuse me of being hypocritical because I was the one who supported his extravagant lifestyle while he was unwilling to give it up. He also said that I wasn't spending enough time with him and that I wasn't giving him any children. However, he and Alyssa got along great, which is why he told me he had to seek other possibilities. According to Alyssa, I should be happy that he decided to keep it in the family rather than taking it out on the town, since I would have been much more embarrassed. They assured me that they would not give up. In fact, after I found out, they felt no need to keep it a secret from me at all. They had only been holding it in to avoid the drama and were simply waiting for her to get promoted so she could leave the area, and Caleb would follow after that. However, she had nothing against the notion of being clear now and then. To end this, I have no idea how I survived it all. It was very horrible. After learning the facts, I was at a loss for words because they didn't appear to feel bad about it, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. That was undoubtedly the case. I made the decision to file for divorce, and when I told my parents, they distanced themselves from Alyssa and Eric ceased corresponding with her. After that, not a single member of our family kept in touch with her, and they didn't appear to be any worse off. After a few weeks, Alyssa went to Pennsylvania, which is 9 hours away from here. 3 months later, after my divorce was finalized, Caleb did the same. He left everything to me and did not dispute my petition or the divorce. I suppose he assumed he wouldn't have to worry about money now that he was with Alyssa. He didn't have to worry about missing out on my riches or the divorce settlement because she had been promoted to a better position with better compensation. He didn't put up much of a fight, so I suppose he was just eager to finish it, which was good for me because it meant I could finish it quickly. I have not spoken to her or anyone else in our family since that time. We have no idea where she is or what she has been doing. We never took the time to inquire. The friends I still keep in touch with and follow her know better than to bring it up with me. To put it succinctly, I have no idea what her life is like. I'm still working through everything, and even after 3 years, they have truly permanently damaged me. But it was Caleb who brought it all back to me a few days ago. He contacted me once more. I had regrettably had the same phone number for the previous few years, so when he contacted me from a number I did not recognize, I answered it without giving it any thought. Though curiosity got the better of me, I should have hung up. I chose to listen to him. When I heard him talking on the other end, the least he could have done was apologize. At least he sounded really frantic and upset, and soon explained to me that he was calling to seek my help, which was really brazen considering we hadn't been in contact for 3 years and didn't exactly end on good terms. However, he skipped all of that and got right to the point. He informed me that Alyssa had suffered a fracture a few weeks prior in an automobile accident, rendering her immobile. She had bruises all over her arms and legs, and they needed help taking care of their 2-year-old son. A few months ago, he had previously attempted to enlist the help of his buddies to take over, but none of them were willing to take on such a significant duty because they were all too busy. Since he had to go to work and try to make more money, he was unable to manage things on his own. They had to make sure that Alyssa was caring for and handling a 2-year-old child because she would be bedridden for a while and unable to work. Alyssa was not his favorite person due to her terrible injuries, and even though they considered it, they couldn't afford to hire a full-time nurse given the high cost of the region they resided in. They had to now rely on their family for support. My parents were informed, but they were too old to agree to it, even though they had already called them. With my father-in-law having died only a year prior and my mother-in-law living in Canada with her sister, my in-laws were no longer an option, even if she would have liked to help. Additionally, they had contacted Eric, as they didn't trust anybody else to care for their son while they were away, and he had stated that he didn't want anything to do with them, with the exception of me. Since neither of them had a close relationship with their extended family, it was a final option. When he was done telling me all of this, I finally had my chance to help them out because they were practically pleading with me. I had been holding it in for years, so I just told him that since it was none of my business, I couldn't help him. I then hung up and blocked his phone. I left it at that without even bothering to go into details. Eric feels that I made the right decision, but regrettably, my parents don't entirely share his opinion. They believe that since 3 years have gone by, I ought to be over it by now, particularly since I should be there for Alyssa, who is going through such a terrible situation. They think I'm being obstinate because I won't help them, and I find it absurd that they even want me to help them after what they did to me. I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm sorry for the children. I truly am, but once more, it's not a concern of mine. They stress that I should at least think it through before saying no because I am being obstinate and self-centered. My folks are really starting to get on my nerves, and I'm not sure whether I made the proper decision. After a few days, I never would have felt sorry for them. However, since a child is involved, I'm reconsidering my choice of not wanting to assist my sister's husband, who had cheated on me with her, in looking after their son. Update. Hello. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude for all the comments on my post. I appreciate you taking the time to respond. You were quite kind, and now I'm making my choice. I'm not going to reconsider, as they themselves put it. I continue to keep out of their affairs. My parents are free to believe anything they wish about me. Really, I don't care. They don't have the authority to determine whether or not I should move on. It was me who suffered harm, therefore the only person who can determine how I feel about this is me. They have no right to control how I feel. I do feel horrible about their boy, and I always will. Again, though, that is not my child nor my issue. Instead of making up an explanation about their age, if they are truly sorry about this, they should assume responsibility for caring for their child. They're just in their early 60s. They go about their daily lives as usual, so it's not like it bothers them in the slightest. They are willing to assist, but I'm sure they could if it were only a question of a few months. All they want to do is put it on me. My parents told me they were severing their relationship with me as well because they found me to be extremely egotistical and unyielding and couldn't believe I would act in such a way. I explained my choice to them and told them I had no intention of changing my mind. I'm not sure what makes it so difficult to believe. Even if Alyssa suffered such serious injuries, I'm not going to allow them to take advantage of me again after they duped me once. That is all there is to it. I don't believe I'm acting improperly. Eric and I haven't spoken about it yet, but I am confident that he will support me as he has done thus far. It will take me a few days to make time to talk to him about this because he recently signed a new project which has him somewhat busy at work right now. But for the time being, I'm happy with my choice. I sincerely hope that Alyssa, Caleb, and his son are able to find a solution for the benefit of their child, even if I have no idea what will happen to them. However, I shouldn't be concerned about it. Update 2. Hey, it's been a week and a half since Caleb attempted to contact me again. At the time, I blocked him, and he hasn't been able to get in touch with me since. However, Eric has informed me that despite their persistent efforts to contact him, including messages from Alyssa, he has been ignoring them all and simply leaving them unread. When I spoke with Eric a few days ago, he informed me that he had also made the decision to stop communicating with our parents since they were acting so irrationally and selfishly. It's hilarious because they had been accusing me of being precisely that. To be honest, they don't even have Eric to call family anymore, as they are on their own. They still have time to mend their relationship with their other daughter, Alyssa, but I doubt they will take on the role of raising their son. It doesn't seem possible because my parents are the type of individuals who claim to care about their loved ones, but won't go above and beyond for them. With Eric's children, I've witnessed that in them. I won't go into too much detail, but a few years back, Eric's older son, who must have been around 4 years old at the time, had a serious tumble at the playground that resulted in a fractured wrist. During that time, Eric's business was struggling, so he asked our parents for a loan to hire a physiotherapist to help his son with his wrist movement. However, they steadfastly refused. After the cast was removed, they informed him that they couldn't simply give money away like charity, as they were becoming older and needed to plan for their retirement as well. Although Eric had shown respect for it and refrained from bringing it up again so as not to appear conceited, I felt that it was a little self-centered of them. Therefore, I don't find it shocking that they still don't assist with their grandchildren. It's just what I anticipated since they have never demonstrated a desire to be helpful. I only hope that they will understand when Eric and Alyssa decide not to allow them to see their grandchildren in the future. They should tell their own children the same thing and not feel entitled to spend time with their grandchildren when they want to, if they are not entitled to any assistance from them. But that's only what I think. Even though I detest Alyssa, I'm hoping for the best for each of them in due course. Update 3. This update is therefore going to be somewhat lengthy. It has already been about 2 months since I was informed of Alyssa's accident. Though I haven't heard directly from them, Eric has been in contact with me and is the one providing me with all of this information. Since I was not feeling well about the situation, I told them that I would be okay with him continuing to communicate with Alyssa and answer her messages. I'm not fond of Alyssa, it's true. I don't adore Caleb, but I also have feelings and wouldn't wish for anything negative to happen to them. Since I am aware that their 2-year-old kid was not involved in any of the horrible things they have done in the past, I instructed Eric to stay in contact with Alyssa and offer assistance if required. Even though they were horrible individuals, I don't have to put myself on their level. My retribution has already been served. I told them no, and that was that. However, families are complex, and regardless of what they have done to me, I find it impossible to wish unpleasant things on anyone. It's simply not who I am. People can be judgmental at times, so I feel like I have to defend my choices, but I'm getting off topic. That's the reason I urged Eric to speak with them. In any case, knowing that my nephew was doing well would give me some peace of mind. To be honest, that's all that counts to me. When he finally contacted them 2 weeks ago to inquire about how things were going, they informed him that things were not good. To care for their son, they had to rely on a daycare because of how costly the neighborhood they lived in was. They could not afford to drive many hours each way to and from their place of residence. Therefore, it was burning a hole in their wallets. Alyssa was left with no self-care options once Caleb had to go to work. That's why it was awful. In addition, they were in danger of being evicted, even though it hadn't happened yet, because they were behind on their rent. Only due to her serious injuries was the landlord gracious enough to grant them a few months' extension, but after that, they were forced to either pay the debt in full or vacate the property, and she had no idea how she would pay for it all. She had begged our parents for assistance, but once again, they had declined, citing their desire to put money down for the future. It makes sense that people would want to put money aside for future medical bills or something, but we would never give it back to them. That has never been the case with us when it comes to their own children. I don't understand why people are always so dubious and strange about money. Not that we're robbers or anything, but this time she lost it and told my parents she was cutting them out of her life. When they refused to help her, she was going to be the one to break off communication with them for good this time. Even though Alyssa and Caleb are similar, I believe they made the proper choice. Both my parents and them are poisonous. Surrounded by folks like this, it's amazing that Eric and I turned out the way we did. That being said, my parents will undoubtedly not be able to see either of their grandchildren for the ensuing years. Furthermore, they will only have themselves to blame. They won't even be able to see their children. Upon closer inspection, you realize that Alyssa and Eric are no longer communicating with them as I am no longer speaking with them. Thus, they are essentially left on their own. I cannot claim that they are undeserving of it. Definitely, I no longer feel sorry for them. Caleb and I talked about the issues they were having, and I told Eric that I would not object if he wanted to assist them. I couldn't let my conscience get in the way of it. I apologize, but I'm just not able to. As they said, I will personally refrain from interfering with their affairs. However, if someone wants to assist them, I won't stop them either. Because of what she had done to me, which was so horrible, Eric told me that he had not been on speaking terms with her up to this point. But now that everything has happened, it's very hard to be angry with her because she was in a really tough situation, and he knew for a fact that Alyssa's son was having a very hard time dealing with all of this emotionally. So, as her older brother, he could not just watch his nephew suffer. We therefore came to the conclusion that he would give them money each month until they were able to stand again. The fact that he is doing this actually makes me happy, as I am aware that no one else stood up for him throughout his trying period. My parents did not support him in any way, and both Alyssa and I attempted to help him out financially while his business was struggling. However, we also had our own needs to consider, and we were not in the same situation as our parents. They could afford to do it again because they have a rather comfortable life. Not to come across as conceited, but they had the opportunity to assist, but they chose not to. Alyssa and I made an effort to help, even though we were not exactly in a position to be benefactors. I suppose it's only right that Eric helps her out in return for the favor. Now, whatever she did to me, it didn't matter. That's something I'll never get over, but whatever my nephew's pain was, that was the main thing that worried me. But now that it's over with, I can resume not thinking about them ever again. I honestly just don't want anything to do with either Alyssa or Caleb. I sincerely apologize for the terrible incident that transpired with them, but I'm ready to move on from this. This, I believe, was the resolution I needed because although the divorce was final, I hadn't felt as satisfied with it as I do now. I'm going to just focus on my career and my personal life and attempt to better everything about myself without thinking about other people anymore. Since I've lost contact with my parents, I don't have to deal with any more toxic people, and I'm actually kind of glad about it. I'll be alright because I'm single and have a lot to live for.